Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is the 7th of March 2024, and these are the stories that we will be highlighting during the course of the show. We'll begin, ladies and gentlemen, with the Pakistan taking up the issue of the Taliban Pakistan and of course all the nefarious activities that it is involved in with the United Nations Security Council. This was of course highlighted by Munir Akram Saab, who is the permanent representative of Pakistan at the United Nations, and he gave some very important statements within the ambit of the United Nations as far as the role of Afghanistan is concerned, and of course these nefarious activities that the TTP and other such terrorist organizations like the Alqaeda or Daesh are perpetrating in the region and could pose a threat not only for Pakistan but also for the region. This is going to be our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns day 152 as far as this conflict between Israel and Palestine is concerned. In fact, it's not day 152 but day 153. I was a day short. And the number of casualties, as we know, is increasing. 30,800 people have perished, have been butchered by Israel since the 7th of October last year. And the number of casualties, as far as those injured, have also surpassed 70,000. There is a lot of hope that lingers within the people in Gaza as to whether there will be a ceasefire or not, even if the ceasefire is temporary. But of course, the need is for that ceasefire to be permanent and for a two-state solution to be implemented. A lot of countries are working towards that, especially Cairo and of course Jordan, and the United States is also involved in this as well. There was a very important session of the OIC that was also held, and our Foreign Office spokesperson Mumtaz Zahra Baloch also highlighted this special session of the foreign ministers of the OIC that was convened to discuss the prevalent situation in Palestine. This and more is going to be discussed in our second story. Our third story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the Indian authorities that have demolished the home of a heroic Muslim tunnel rescuer. He was labelled a national hero, and his name is Vakil Hassan. He was labelled a national hero for saving dozens of workers trapped in a collapsed tunnel. 3 months after he did this heroic achievement, the authorities have demolished his home. He says it's because he is Muslim. Finally, we're going to talk about Russia and China, who are considering putting nuclear power unit on the moon, which of course they say is for peaceful purposes. They are considering putting this power plant on the moon from 2023 to 2035. This has been said by Russia's space agency's head, said that this could one day allow lunar settlements to be built, and this could be used for energy purposes, and this could be a very useful source of energy. This is going to be our last story. Let's begin with our first, and our first story concerns, of course, the important statements that have come in the ambit of the United Nations Security Council, given by none other than Munir Akram, who is the permanent representative of Pakistan at the United Nations. We've been joined in this segment by two guests, Brigadier retired Masud Saab. He's a senior analyst and he joins us in the studios. And our second guest is Salman Javed, who's an Afghan affairs expert. We'll begin with Brigadier Masud Saab. Sir, thank you very much to have joined us. Munir Akram Saab urges the world body, that is the United Nations Security Council, to demand that Afghanistan's interim administration severe ties, that is cut its ties with the banned militant network TTP and its affiliates targeting Pakistani nationals. Will this be looked upon and implemented, in your point of view? Because you know this is not the first time that he has talked about this.
Yes, I don't think so. Initially, it may not be possible. The way they are responding are the initial statements given by the United Nations Security Council, subsequently the statements made by the Tom West Special Envoy on U.S. Special Envoy in Afghanistan, and they have shown their concern of the presence of the militants outside Afghanistan. But despite the sincere and serious effort by the international community, they haven't shown any positive response from Afghanistan. And look at present, there are 23 terrorist organizations operating inside Afghanistan, and 17 they are focusing Pakistan. So rest they are the focus as a whole is 53 countries across the globe. So the threat is serious. It's not only for the Pakistan, basically it is for the region as well as ultimately it will become a global threat. The way Al-Qaeda, IS-K, they are gaining strength inside Afghanistan. So this threat is serious unless serious steps are taken by the international community to pressurize Afghan in the interim government, the Afghan Taliban, to sever its ties with the militants operating inside Afghanistan, namely the TTP against Pakistan, Islamic State, Eastern Turkestan Islamic movement focusing China, then Islamic movement of Uzbekistan, then there is a Tehrik-e-Taliban, Tajikistan. So, there are several others, and also the Baloch militants, they are also operating from Afghanistan. So, they are focusing in Balochistan. So, this threat is serious unless there is a pressure from the international community, mainly from the United States. I do not see any positive response from the Afghan interim government.
You know, Brigadier Sahib, you talk about the involvement of all these terrorist outfits. With Pakistan, it has been specifically others as well, but the majority of the incidents have the backbone or the mindset of the TTP and its affiliates. Hundreds of people have lost their lives because of the nefarious incidents that this organization and its affiliates have been involved in. What I fail to understand is why the Afghan interim government has not yet taken any sufficient measures, significant measures, despite repeated requests by Pakistan, delegations that have gone to Afghanistan to reiterate Pakistan's request to the Afghan side.
As you rightly highlighted, our special envoy Asif Durrani, he visited Afghanistan frequently, as international community also highlighted, and we also provided them the evidence, the training camps from where they are operating, documentary evidence was also given. But despite all those facts, the Afghan interim government, they are basically they are using this terrorist organization Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan as a bet leverage against Pakistan, as a bargaining chip against Pakistan. So, that is the major factor. There could be a possibility of not controlling Islamic State or the other organization inside Afghanistan, but they have failed to basically control TTP. One factor could be the disgruntled element of TTP, subsequently they may join Islamic State. That is one could be one factor, but generally we have seen they have failed. So, that means they do not enjoy full control of Afghanistan from Badakhshan to Kandahar. So, that is one of the factors. So, that is the factor. I do not think so they are going to exercise control due to several reasons.
And what are those reasons in your point of view? Because, you know, for any country, even if it had been Pakistan, it would have curtailed all such nefarious activities if, you know, such organizations were harboring themselves within Pakistani territories and then, you know, trying to destabilize countries in the neighborhood. But why isn't Afghanistan doing it? I would also like to add to this the comment by Munir Akram when he addressed the United Nations Security Council. He said, left unchecked, the TTP supported by Alqaeda and some state sponsors could soon pose a global terrorist threat. This could emanate beyond Pakistan, can't it?
Exactly, exactly. And today Alqaeda, the report which was issued this year by the United Nations Analytics Support Team, they said the Alqaeda they are gaining strength in 4 provinces. They have established their bases and they named those provinces inside Afghanistan. Beside a person named Al-Misri who is training suicide bombers TTP in Paktika. So, Al-Qaeda has become a party which is providing consultancy, because beside their ideological basically the faith which they are trying to transfer from one place to the other. So, that is the factor. So, these things are very serious, and beside this there is a alliance between Islamic State and Al-Qaeda, Taliban, TTP. There is an alliance between Al-Qaeda and TTP, and also recently they have alliance with the Lashkar-e-Islam as well as the Hafiz Gul Bahadur group. Previously they were dragons. No, Al-Qaeda has mediated and facilitated, and they have facilitated, they have become at least one entity now as a Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan to carry out terrorist activities inside Pakistan.
All right. Brigadier Sahib, there is one question that comes to my mind, and that this is as a layman, not as a journalist. You know, a country like Afghanistan, currently governed, the way it is governed, has a lot of issues, whether it be governance, but it also has humanitarian issues. It has economic issues. People don't have enough food. People don't have, the necessary facilities that are needed. In this whole context, how does a 50,000 plus fighters that are part of TTP and their affiliates manage to get the latest machinery, to infiltrate Pakistan, and proof of which we have found in all these nefarious activities that they have been involved in within Pakistani territories. Then how and who is financing them? Because for anything, even for any activity, even for moving from place A to B, you need some kind of backing, some kind of financial backing. Who is backing these outfits financially?
So we can discuss first of all the weapons. When the Americans left, they left a lot of weapons behind, and according to the international media and the print media, $7.12 billion worth they were left behind. So Foreign Policy magazine carried in an article that Afghan Taliban, they have become now arms dealers, and they are earning billions of dollars through the sale of these weapons. So anybody can go and buy these weapons. So the south of Afghanistan as well as the eastern Afghanistan, especially the Panjwai, that has become a weapons market. So that is one thing. You can find AK-47, M4, M16, other weapons, but most importantly, that is the availability of night vision devices, infrared devices. Now the TTP, they are in possession of this, and that's why they have gained this ability of attacking inside Pakistan at night. So basically Afghans, they are arming the TTP and other militants inside Afghanistan. So there is no, the report was carried out by New York Times also. They also confirmed the thousands of weapons they were left behind by the Americans. Al Jazeera carried out and specifically telling, reporting that 250,000 small weapons, about 3 lakhs, and 250,000 heavy weapons, and 61,000 vehicles they were left behind by the Americans. And despite these facts, these weapons are not easily available inside, and those terrorists with those carried out attacks inside across border in Chatral, in Mia Valley, as well as in Dera Ismail Khan and Muslim Bagh, Zob Kent, they were in possession of these latest weapons. So these were provided by the Taliban. So the evidence is there, and Pakistan has already provided these evidence to international community as well as the Afghans. Secondly, as far as the finances are concerned, the Afghan General Directorate of Intelligence, which has now replaced the former NDS, they are basically funding and financing these terrorist elements. There is a section, I recently read a report in the media, there is a section 041, another section 051, then there is another section 063. They are responsible for providing funds as well as the weapons to the militants. And according to their report, there was these sections, they provided weapons to basically not only the TTP element but also to the Baloch. There was one Shafiq Baloch who was provided weapons and money by these sections. So similarly, and they also provided and facilitated visits of Alqaeda leaders in the area of Badakhshan. Namely, there was one Abdurrahman who was facilitated and provided protection by General Directorate of Intelligence in the Badakhshan area. So as a whole, basically, as I said, the General Directorate of Intelligence is basically providing money, and Khalid Khorasani was also paid about 0.5 million rupees by this General Director of Intelligence of Jamaat-e-Ihrar. So they basically, the Afghan intelligence, they are providing weapons and equipment and also financing, beside stipends to the families of TTP inside Afghanistan as well as also in Pakistan. The latest report, which was released by the United Nations monitoring team this year, again they reconfirmed their previous report. The most benefited organization of Taliban takeover in Afghanistan is the TTP. And also that the TTP has managed to establish some new bases inside Pakistan with the support and facilitation by the Afghan Taliban. So the international community is well aware of this development, and the documented evidence Pakistan has already provided to in Afghanistan government as well as the international community. As you highlighted, if not control, it will be a global threat.
Exactly, it will be. We've been joined by Salman, Javed, Afghan affairs expert. Salman, thank you very much to have joined us. Salman, Munir Akram Saab says to the United Nations Security Council that the interim Afghan government's failure to control the TTP and other terrorist groups erodes its claim of full control of the territory that it asserts in order to secure international recognition. Shouldn't this be a priority for Afghanistan so that it could be recognized internationally and diplomatically as well, instead of, resorting to backing such terror outfits?
Yeah. So I was saying that when you talk to the Afghan government, officials of Afghan government, you see that they are in a kind of euphoric state right now. They think and they claim that they have consolidated the power or the control over their territory, the whole of Afghanistan. Although there are skirmishes within, and there is a kind of political implode that is waiting to happen, or it's already in the move. But the Afghan Indian government officials are not ready to see the bigger picture of the region or the world, and that is what the regional countries are now getting the sense of it. The recent Doha meeting, the UN Doha meeting, which UN General Secretary convened over there, of the special representatives to Afghanistan of different countries, or 25 countries, I think. They also issued the similar statement or the similar concern that the territory of Afghanistan is being used for nurturing such groups such as Alqaeda, ISKP or TTP, and that the concerns of the regional as well as global countries should be addressed by the Afghan interim government. But what IA did was that they issued a preemptive statement before that Doha meeting, and try to downplay this whole event and this whole exercise. So this shows the conduct or the behavior of IEA right now, and I don't think so that they are ready to listen to anybody unless they have been coerced by different means and methods. That can be economic coercion, that can be military coercion, but I think the way of diplomacy which Pakistan opted initially, or the other countries opted initially, is reaching to its threshold now.
All right. So if you say there needs to be some kind of coercion in order for the Afghan interim government to take the necessary measures, I'd also like to, before we come to these measures, I'd like to understand why wasn't the Afghan side present at the second Doha conference? Secondly, there was a huge talk of the appointment of a special envoy in Afghanistan that Munir Akram Saab also pointed towards while talking to the UNSC. How do you feel this is going to be acceptable to the Afghan interim government, a special envoy on Afghanistan?
Yes, I think they won't revert it, or they won't deny the presence of any special envoy inside Afghanistan, because they see it as an opportunity. They see it as an opportunity not only to interact with the rest of the world, but also to legitimize their government within the Afghan populace. So this is a kind of tool, political tool, that they use, that look, we are interacting with the rest of the world, and so the world is gradually accepting our presence or our legitimacy inside Afghanistan. So this is a kind of very smart move being played by the IA or the Afghan interim government right now. So they won't deny the presence or the appointment of any special representatives towards Afghanistan. As far as their presence in Doha was concerned, I think, like I said before, that they preempted this move because they already kind of knew that the agenda of the meeting would include all those elements which they are denying or they are trying to avoid. For example, the issue of inclusive government, for example, the issue of women's rights, for example, the issue of terrorism being nurtured over there, especially TTP, Al-Qaeda and ISKP. So they preempted that move and did not participated in that meeting. Also, the political representatives of the Afghan interim government sitting within Qatar, they had meetings with the special representatives, especially with the special representative of Pakistan, on the sidelines of that meeting, but they did not participate in the main event.
All right, stay online with us. Brigadier Masud Saab, there was a report taken out by the US which talks about an unfavorable protection environment in Pakistan regarding Afghan refugees. Munir Akram Saab has called this report as offensive. He highlights that we have made several exceptions for those with Afghan ID cards, POR cards, for those who may be vulnerable if they return to Afghanistan, and for the over 60,000 Afghans which third countries have offered to receive but have not done so far since the last 2 years. Munir Akram Saab said, and this is very important, he said the UN should arrange itself immediate repatriation of Afghan refugees if it has concerns over unfavorable protection environment. How do you see this statement?
I entirely agree with this statement of Ambassador Munir Akram. Look, I was Commissioner of Afghan Refugees, Balochistan for 6 years, so dealing with the refugees. So Pakistan is generously looking after these Afghan refugees and Afghan illegal nationals for over 4 decades now. And we have spent, the government of Pakistan has spent billions of dollars for the welfare of Afghan refugees. Look, today there are different categories of Afghans living inside Pakistan. 1.4 million registered, those are in position of proof of registration card. Yet there is another category. Those we documented in 2017 and they were issued Afghan citizen card. They are about 0.9 million. So illegal Afghans, as per the European agency statement, is 1.8 million. So our requirement was to deport those who are living inside Pakistan illegally. That was one thing. So forcefully they were not sent. So they were sent through a systematic manner, a concept which was conceived, that was implemented, and they were accordingly, they are being sent. But as far as repatriation of actual refugees are concerned, so we are trying for the last so many years. So I was part of these so many seminars and discussions. So the requirement of government of Pakistan was to create pull factors inside Afghanistan so that the refugees, they can go back. So not a single time this factor was created inside Afghanistan. So if and when over a period of time, the funds which they used to provide by the United Nations, that has drastically reduced. So though the attention of the entire United Nations and the rest of the world, that has they are focusing the Syrian refugees inside Turkey. So if the rightly ambassador said, if they are so concerned, we will glad to send them back to Afghanistan, inside Afghanistan. No, the peace has returned to Afghanistan, the Taliban are there, so Taliban should welcome them inside Afghanistan. So despite all our sincerity and our contribution looking after, and still today we are looking after Afghan nationals coming inside Afghanistan, Pakistan for education, health, and for the skill training, etc. So we are still extending all possible facilities to them. So unfortunately, that's why Chief of Army Staff was very categoric and clear. He said, despite all our sincerities, our assistance to Afghan, they are still trying to send their proxies to destabilize Pakistan. Certainly that is not acceptable, and Pakistan reserves the right, as we demonstrated recently in case of Iran and previously in case of India. So we have all the right to strike those training camps inside Afghanistan, the safe havens provided by the Afghan interim government.
All right, Salman, Javed, I'd like to have your point of view on this unfavorable protection environment in Pakistan of the Afghan refugees. And secondly, I'd like to also quote what Munir Akram said, and he stated that Pakistan will continue to provide a basic pathway for humanitarian assistance, trade and development for Afghans. He added that the destinies of Pakistan and Afghanistan were intertwined, and peace, security and prosperity were essential for Pakistan. He also said Pakistan's financial system is in bad shape and the Afghan people are facing a tough economic situation. If this is the actual scenario as Munir Akram Sahab is painting, then why is the Afghan interim government still resorting to sheltering terror outfits instead of adhering to the stability of its populace and enhancing its relationship with Pakistan that has always been on its side? Secondly, of course, I will revert to the unfavorable protection environment in Pakistan of the Afghan refugees, and what's your take on that?
So, the first thing I would like to put something in context. Like our other guest, honorable guest, had mentioned that Pakistan was not only generous enough to host over 5 million Afghans for over 4 decades, but also there's another part of the story as well. Till 1994-95, Pakistan kept these refugees in the camps, and 2 bodies of United Nations, that is WFP and WHO, they used to provide funds for these refugees. In 1994-95, I think, they pulled out the funding, and since then Pakistan took a strategic decision to let these Afghan refugees go into the length and width of Pakistan and establish their own businesses, their own work things, so that they could sustain their economic matter over here. Pakistan didn't keep them in the refugee camps in their miserable conditions. No other country in the world allow refugees to go into the length and width of their territory and allow them to go for the economic ventures inside the country, legal or not. That's not the case. So Pakistan actually provided the opportunity to the Afghan refugees since 1994 to have their own economic establishments inside Pakistan to safeguard their economic interests. So I think that if anyone is claiming that these Afghan refugees are being mishandled or they are not being treated well over in Pakistan, they do not know the exact history of Pakistan treating them, that how Pakistan treated them and how Pakistan provided them with the opportunity that no other country in the world has provided to them. Just look at the case of Iran. That is another neighbor country in the region of Afghanistan. And in Iran, only 7 cities are there where Afghan refugees are allowed to go or reside or conduct their business. Out of those 7 cities, if any Afghan refugees go outside of those 7 cities, then their law comes into motion. This is just one example. As far as your other question is concerned, that if you can kindly repeat that question,
yes,
then I'll answer to that.
You said that Pakistan and Afghanistan's destinies were intertwined, and that Pakistan will continue to provide a basic pathway for humanitarian assistance, trade and development for Afghans. If Pakistan is genuine enough to still talk about that, despite the Afghan side, involving itself directly and indirectly in such nefarious activities, shouldn't this be Afghanistan's priority, to forge better relations with Pakistan, to stop these nefarious activities, and to develop its international relations as well with all those countries, and work on those points which are sore thumb for all the international community?
Well, we see Afghanistan from the lens of our, founding fathers, because, like Iqbal said in his famous poem, that Afghanistan is the heart of Asia. If the heart of Asia is disturbed, then the whole of Asia will remain disturbed. So Pakistan actually believes in that. Having a wish that there should be a peaceful Afghanistan and a peaceful, Kabul and a friendly Kabul towards Islamabad is not something which is odd. Pakistan always had this wish, and Pakistan always strived to, have relations with Kabul, no matter what whosoever was there at the throne of Kabul. And Pakistan always tried to facilitate Afghan general populace. Just take an example that even in this hostile environment, in the previous regime as well as in this regime as well, the daily coming and going of Afghan people from Afghanistan to Pakistan is around 20,000 plus, and this is something which is very unique around the world. No two countries allow such a transition of people between their borders. But Pakistan just did that so that they can facilitate the Afghan people, so that there may be a kind of semblance of peace and economic activity that may not result in some kind of other activities that may spill over towards Pakistan. But unfortunately, the current Afghan interim government, they took it very negatively, and like I said before, that they are in a kind of euphoric state and they are not paying heed to the request of the regional as well as global countries. But I think so that recent developments, especially these events which are taking place on behalf of UN, and this statement of Munir Akram, this may bring out some kind of positive results towards this menace of terrorism which is growing inside Afghanistan.
Let's hope so. Let's wish for the best, and let's see what the coming days and weeks have in store. Thank you very much, Salman, Javed, Afghan affairs expert, to have joined us. Thank you very much in the studios, Brigadier Masud, Ahmad Khan, sub-defense analyst, to have joined us as well. Pleasure to have the both of you here for this very important topic. Let's come to our second topic, and that concerns Israel-Palestine conflict, and of course the day 153 as far as that conflict is concerned. As far as the casualties are concerned, the casualties keep on increasing. The number is 30,800 people at least who have been butchered by Israel since the 7th of October last year. 72,298 have been wounded by Israeli attacks on Gaza since the 7th of October. In the last 24 hours alone, Israeli attacks have killed 83 people and have wounded 142 others in Gaza. A mosque in Jabalia al-Balad was also bombed by Israel, in which at least 5 people were killed in northern Gaza. A 15-year-old and a 72-year-old man have died in northern Gaza as a result of malnutrition and dehydration. And on social media, there are devastating pictures of such people who are enduring the worst of whatever is going on as far as their health is concerned, as far as the atrocities are concerned. It seems like a deliberate attempt by Israel to limit or to eliminate the Palestinians one way or the other. We've been joined by Dr. Salma Malik, foreign affairs expert. Dr. Salma, thank you very much to have joined us. South Africa has asked Dr. Salma, the ICJ, to order additional emergency measures against Israel, which it says is breaching the measures already in place. In January, the ICJ ordered Israel to refrain from any acts that could fall under the Genocide Convention. But of course, Israel did not follow that. What is the jurisdiction of the ICJ as far as Israel is concerned, and what can be taken as concrete action?
Assalamu alaikum, Omar. Thank you so much for having me in the program, and my apologies for not being able to join you in person. The situation actually, whatever the jurisdiction ICJ may have, the fascinating story about Israel is that not only are they acting with impunity, they are flaunting and they are disregarding every possible stuff that is coming from any international bodies, including the ICJ, and the impunity and the criminality of this entire situation is being supported full-fledgedly by the United States. And that provides Israel with a greater impetus to do whatever it needs to do. And that becomes a very unfortunate situation. As for certain countries, there are legal reservations that countries have when it comes to ICJ's verdicts and edicts. And that is how they try to find those pictures in the picture and in the system, and they're able to disregard any of these addicts that are coming forward. So Israel is doing that, and is doing with a lot of impunity. It also has the support of the United States with it, and that is why it is under no pressure. And it's doing pretty well ahead. And I'm sure at the end of the day, when Israel feels that it has done sufficiently well for itself, and it has damaged the Palestinians beyond repair, it is just then going to stop. And it's going to use the American pretext that we have done that under the humanitarian concern. But for the moment, this is how it is performing. It is disregarding ICJ. It is using every kind of leverage that it has in this international system and getting away with this criminality.
All right. There have been different claims made by Israel that have been refuted in a report by the Refugees International. It talks about the provisional measures that were issued on the 26th of January by the ICJ, ordering Israel to facilitate the flow of aid in Gaza to avert the possibility of genocide, and that are not being adhered to. There are 4 claims, of course, that Israel made regarding that it was following. In fact, those have been refuted by this Refugees International, this group. I understand that that it is not following the ICJ, but it is also not following, and disregarding what other countries, including its strongest ally, the US, are saying. Speaking of the US, I'd like to give 2 comments regarding 2 US Democrats concerning Israel. First is by Chris Van Hollen, a Democratic member of the Foreign Relations Committee, who told reporters we need to use all the leverage we've got. The administration has not used the leverage it has to date. I don't know how many more kids have to starve before we use all the levers of our influence here. Secondly, Democratic Senator Pete Welch also said in a Senate speech on Tuesday, how many homes and shops and schools and childcare centers and hospitals must be destroyed before we can say to Prime Minister Netanyahu, enough. Your comment.
Omar, the problem here is that the statements which are being issued out, they are beautiful statements. They're empathetic. They have a very strong, the heart is beating in the right place kind of statements. But the main issue is that it doesn't really matter to Israel at all. You have also carried out programs when the ceasefire, that temporary ceasefire had taken place, and nothing really happened as a result of that. In fact, Israel returned with a greater power and greater show of its brutality. The only thing that is going to really matter is when these countries, instead of having their Congress people and the senators giving these empathetic statements, actually undertake concrete measures. They sanction Israel, they boycott Israel officially. And there is a movement at the United Nations officially spearheaded by the United States. Instead of vetoing it, these are just empty words and empty statements. And Israel knows it, the US knows it. The main reason as to what I think that you hear too many statements coming from the USA now is that it is coming closer to the election year. And now that it's going to be elections towards the end of this year, people are making the necessary sound bites, the necessary noises, so to appease their domestic constituencies, so to have this thing on their political or electoral resume, that they have made these type of humanitarian pitch. There's nothing really happening. Have any of these people actually carried out a campaign to ban Israel or to see to it that there is a better treatment of the Palestinians? That is something which is missing. And we can't really do anything about it. So it's kind of like, showing your good face and doing whatever you feel like behind the curtain.
All right. I'd like to add some more statements to that. China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi brands Israel's war on Gaza as a tragedy for humanity and a disgrace for civilization and calls for an immediate ceasefire. Joseph Borrell, who is the EU's top diplomat, says the bloc will examine whether Israel is complying with the human rights obligations stipulated in their trade deal. And this is what you were, implying, that there should be some pressure, economic pressure.
Exactly.
Then a spokesperson for the US State Department says obstacles to a truce deal between Israel and Hamas were not insurmountable and that an agreement could be still reached before Ramadan. Three very different statements on three different topics, but of course all leading to one single thing. Will there be some kind of pressure tactic imposed on Israel, and will there be a truce deal imposed before Ramadan so that the people in Palestine at least could heave a sigh of relief during this holy month?
Three things. Number one, when we look at China, China always takes a very guarded and a very refined position when it comes to international affairs. China has a very strong non-interventionist, non-interference policy, and it abides by that. It is a decades-old policy that China has, and it follows. Yet the fact that China has said what it has said matters that China is trying to do what it can. And we have also seen in the recent years, in fact, in the last 2-3 years, that China has put its weight behind, and a very solid weight at that, and made certain countries which were at adverse relations with one another come to a rapprochement. So one shouldn't be surprised if China is carrying out very concrete, behind-the-curtain mediation policies and trying to bring bring a truce to the situation. Same can go for the EU, but you see the EU will only do, at the end of the day, what the United States tells the EU to do. So the major countries of the European Union totally take America's dictation, and if America is okay with any kind of truce prior to Ramadan, then it's going to happen. But if there is a subtle hint towards a scheduled truce, in a sense that they're saying that prior to Ramadan there's going to be a truce, that means that the behind-the-curtain negotiations or the diplomacy that is happening between all of these big powers is coming to some successful conclusion, that they feel confident in saying that there's going to be a breakthrough prior to Ramadan. So one can only hope and wish and pray, but the amount of loss in terms of the human lives lost, children lost, the livelihoods lost, the families who have been destroyed and they're only now part of someone's memory, that can never be replaced. This is too big a loss to even think that this truce or diplomacy is going to be a balm for anyone in the coming years. But of course, it may protect future lost supplies and livelihoods. But Palestinians have lost a lot by now. And whatever the Israelis have managed to capture in these 5 months, that is not going to be replaced or that is not going to be rehabilitated. So that we have to actually kind of make ourselves understand and agree upon that even if the US, the European Union, the Chinese government, or anyone is coming together and do what it is doing, Israel is not going to let go of what it has already taken. And,
all right. Last question, Dr. Salma. It has two parts. I want a very short answer. We're a bit short of time, unfortunately. First is the Houthis' claimed strike on a cargo ship causes 3 deaths since the group began attacks on the Red Sea in response to what's happening in Gaza. They say they will continue until there is a complete stoppage to what Israel is doing in Gaza. Has this conflict already escalated beyond Palestine in your point of view? Second is the ground invasion on Rafah that Israel time and again mentions, including in statements from Netanyahu, is it actually going to happen? Can this be averted?
Yes, it can be averted, very much so. Answer to your last question, because I think a lot of things are being done with a lot of measure and restraint. And the measure and restraint is more in terms of the spatial measure and restraint, and the Israelis have a plan and they're doing it accordingly. Also, that we have seen that the provocation which the Houthis have provided to the United States and other countries, they haven't really been provoked as they could have been provoked, and that talks about that measured restraint that you have hinted towards, and they just want to keep the theater limited strategically to a certain parameter and not go beyond it. And there's a lot of strategic restraint and measured response when it comes to these greater powers doing their show of firepower and other factors. So we have to keep this thing in mind. The main target is the areas which are already besieged, the people who are being displaced, and the statements when you hear that this is the future corridor for oil and gas and they want to have the Palestinians out of their motherland, seems to be extremely true. And they really cannot, the US at this moment cannot really afford that the war should spill beyond what the immediate boundaries are.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salma Malik, foreign affairs expert, who have joined us and to have discussed many aspects of day 153 of this conflict that continues to date, which no signs for the moment of any truce whatsoever. Thank you very much, ma'am, to have joined us. Let's come to our last two stories. Vakil Hassan, a national hero in India who led a team of rat hole miners who dug through the blockage to rescue 41 workers who had been trapped in Uttarakhnd's Silkyara tunnel last November, has now lost his home. Despite all the praise he received, his house in Khuljarri Khas, New Delhi, has been demolished as part of a so-called anti-encroachment drive by the Delhi Development Authority. The DDA claims the house was built illegally on government land. Hassan says that he has the documents to prove the ownership. He wonders if he was targeted because he's a Muslim in a predominantly Hindu country. Finally, we'll come to Russia that says it is considering putting a nuclear power plant on the moon with China. Russia and China are considering putting this plant on the moon from the year 2023 to 2035. This has been said by the head of Russia's space agency, Roscosmos. Borskov has said that Russia and China had been jointly working on this lunar program and that Moscow was able to contribute with its expertise on nuclear space energy. He also spoke of Russian plans to build a nuclear-powered cargo spaceship. He said all the technical questions concerning the project had been solved. He said we need to work on a space tugboat, this huge structure that could be able, thanks to a nuclear reactor, to transport large cargoes from one orbit to another. So, of course, a lot of development is occurring as far as the space plan of China and Russia is concerned. China has also said last month it aims to put the first Chinese astronaut on the moon before the year 2030. All the best to the both as far as their endeavors are concerned. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new story segments that pertain to us, you and Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz. you.